Austraeoh by Imploding Colon, read by Deathlight, Chapter 169, Ember. We've been at it long enough as it is, Stu said, looking across the dim enclosure. Are you sure we must stop now? We're only halfway to Sanctuary, and we need to preserve our strengths, Samro said. Evening had fallen, and the grey world above had turned dark and ominous. The four ponies in Rainbow Dash were retiring within the comforting embrace of a dense chunk of marble, doubly shielded from the sky of Silverdale above. In the distance, several loud shrieking noises could be heard, but that didn't stop the group from making a tiny fire to warm themselves as they reclined to catch their breaths. We've eliminated several broodlings today. No need to rush to our destination. Once we're safe, then we can celebrate. I'm sure the council would respect that. Very well, Your Majesty. Stu nodded. I'm going to patrol and watch the hunters from above, Samra said, trotting away. If you hear my whistle, dive for deeper cover. But Your Highness, Swirls exclaimed in a raspy voice. When was the last time you slept? Don't you need your rest as well? You know me. Samrose grunted, but through his voice there was the barest hint of levity. I will rest when I'm dead. Stu and Swirls chuckled lightly. Well said, my liege. Samrose disappeared amongst the wreckage. Stu took a deep breath. I don't know where he finds the energy. I'm reckoning it's his armor. They say he wears it in his sleep. Swirls added. Guess we'll never know for sure. Swirl sat down next to him. You know, he only took down half the monsters on this excursion. It was a group effort. We all kicked scary butt together. Yes, well... Swirl smiled warmly. You were really brave out there today. Stu stared off into the grayness and cocked his head aside. Yes I was. Swirl chuckled again, closing her eyes. She gently leaned into him and knelt at his side. Stu supported her weight, and the two were quiet within the breasts of one another. Rainbow observed this from afar. Exhaling, she squatted low on her haunches and rested her muzzle down beside the fire. With two jaded eyes, she gazed up at the tiny patch of sky. It must be really unfortunate. Rainbow Dash glanced aside. Ember Speak sat across the tiny campfire from her. To not be able to fly. Rainbow made a face. We're surrounded by death and destruction, and the only thing you feel bad about is the fact that I can't fly? You mustn't have known that you'd be running into dragons. Being stuck here, below the surface of Old Silverdale, isn't your fault. With a bitter smirk, Rainbow Dash gazed towards where Sam Rose had trotted off. He seems to act like it is my fault, and I can't really blame him. Sam deals with a lot of frustrations. He's the sole heir to the Silverdalian throne. He has a lot on his shoulders, and, well... She smiled crookedly. He isn't exactly living in the same luxurious palace as his forebears. Say, how come there's a prince anyways? Huh? On the way through your kingdom, I picked up a book from some old library. It said a lot of stuff about the Silverdalian way of life. It described a ruling oligarchy and a ritualistic family structure. It didn't mention anything about royalty. Ember scratched her chin in the firelight. She spoke lightly, her voice echoing like raindrops against the tiny enclosure. The royal family is as old as Silverdale. They're as important as the council has been for us throughout the many years. I guess you can say they're like the surviving spirit of the kingdom. It sounds like there's quite a few of you still kicking around beneath the basement of burning Dragonville. Rainbow raised an eyebrow. It sounds like you ponies got enough spirit of your own. Ember Speak chuckled lightly. I guess I really can't explain it. Sam Rose means a lot to us. We'd follow him into death if it meant winning back even an inch of our kingdom. It's really that intense a situation, huh? The situation is my life, Rainbow Dash. Ember Speaks said solemnly. I was born beneath the rubble, as was my mother and my mother before her. Since foalhood, I was told about the dragons and what they stole from us. Just what are they here for? Ember sighed, gnawing her lip as she gazed into the flames. Nobody is sure exactly. Not even the council has all the facts right. All I know is that Sylvaidal was once a glorious kingdom. We carved paradise in the middle of a harsh desert. We constructed a peaceful coexistence with civilization and nature. And then the dragons erupted. Rainbow Dash made a face. What do you mean, erupted? They sprung up from the earth. Hundreds of them, thousands. In the space of days, the entire realm of Sylvaidal was conformed into a giant brood's nest. The calamitous birth of so many fireworms at once was enough to demolish the kingdom from inside out. The way I understood it, it was always something bound to happen. Only the Sylvaidalians had no clue. They couldn't suspect there was something teeming, brooding beneath the homes they built out of love and prosperity. Gulping, Rainbow Dash murmured, "The matriarch." Ember Speak nodded. No pony knows her true name, or why she chose the underground caverns beneath Sylvaidal to be her nest. But she arrived in the subterranean hollows beneath the palace centuries ago and laid her eggs. Then her broodlings hatched, and it spelled the end of the old age. And she's been held up in her place of labor ever since, undoubtedly watching over some ghastly horde. Has any pony ever seen her? The matriarch, that is. Ember fidgeted. None that survived. She cast the Pegasus a forlorn glance. And those who returned to speak of her, didn't live long. Rainbow Dash said nothing. She gazed quietly into the sparkling campfire. Ember smiled out of nowhere. This book that you found, do you still have it? What? Oh, yeah, I still do. May I see it? Sure, why not? Rainbow Dash opened her saddlebags and reached in. You'll likely make more sense of it than I ever, She paled, having grabbed a green-bound book by accident. Clearing her throat, she reached deeper, grabbing the Sylvaidalian book and hoofed it over. Seriously, though, it's pretty boring. Ember was smiling brightly as she cradled the manuscript in her hooves as if it was an infant. Speak for yourself, I love things like this. Do you now? Rainbow remarked, for once in her life, not having the impulse to call another soul an egghead. I've salvaged several books and portraits in the last 5 years of visiting the surface. She explained, looking up at Rainbow before flipping through the book once more. I'm lucky, you know. Not very many ponies get to visit old Sylvaidal. It's not an easy life, of course, but I'm blessed to be able to fight and hunt alongside Sam. If it means being able to see glimpses of the past like this, then I feel connected. Does that make any sense? Heh. Rainbow Dash slid the green book into the darkest corner of her saddlebag and snapped the thing shut. You're talking to the last pony who'd bother much with connections. Ember Speak paused, looking at her. She snapped the book shut and squinted, murmuring, You're from a long, long ways away, aren't you? Rainbow scraped her forelimbs against the stone before her. What gave you that idea? You mean besides the fact they have a pretty, magical mane? Rainbow frowned. For real, cut that out. Ember giggled lightly, then spoke. The elders of the council had told me ancient stories of flying ponies, and how they used to hover over every corner of the earth like fae folk. But then, one day, the Paisai all withdrew into clans. They built castles out of clouds and piloted their cities to the farthest corners of the earth, so that way they could look over the entirety of nature. That's a pretty sexy version of our backstory. But is it true? Ember leaned her head to the side. Could your kind walk on clouds, shape the weather, and build such amazing cities as Stratopolis? Stratopolis is a myth. Rainbow grunted, then shrugged. But the other parts, they're not too far from the truth. With a sigh, she glanced up at the dim sky above the wreckage. A tiniest tail of light danced through the smog and clouds. I haven't met any Pegasi since I began flying places. No? It's been hard to stay excited, but I didn't figure it would suddenly become hard to stay alive. Ember didn't immediately respond, watching Rainbow Dash for a while, following the angle of her eyesight. Eventually, she spoke. Do you long for the sky? It's not quite that. What's bothering you then? Timing. Lousy, rotten timing. It was almost a full moon right when I got here. I was hoping to meet a good friend. In Old Sylvatal? No, not quite. You see, when the moon is full, I could use the snazzy pendant you see around my neck and chat with an Alcorn princess from far away and... Rainbow Dash? She stopped in mid-sentence, glancing at the mare. Yeah, what? Ember Speak was squinting. What is this moon, and why should it be full? Rainbow did a double take. She glanced up at the ruins, and dense smog beyond. It's a bright cosmic body, I guess. And, like an Alcorn goddess raises it every night to shed light upon the world and affect the tides. It's kinda like the night's version of the sun, only it's not as bright as the sun, and it's made up of a different... sun? Ember Speak gazed curiously. Rainbow Dash blinked. She looked at the fire, then at her hooves. This sanctuary of yours, it's really dang deep in the ground, isn't it? Ember nodded. It has to be, otherwise we wouldn't survive. It's large, vast, and home to thousands of proud Sylvadilians, all working together to bring about salvation. She took another deep breath. Still though, I'm willing to bet it's not nearly as glorious from where you came from, Rainbow Dash. Rainbow looked at the rubble, then at her. Would you like to know about where I came from? Ember Speak's eyes brightened, her teeth shone with a glimmering smile. I would love to.